Can you see me now, Declan?
Yeah, I can.
Great.
I megaphone him. Can you see anyone else?
No, just you two right now.
Okay.
Oh, I see somebody else. Sweet.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the VR Creator Club here on Banter. Today we have Declan Johnson speaking about gamification in WebXR. Before we begin, I just want to let you know that we just finished a month-long game jam over on the school VR CC. So the VR Creator Club here on Banter, free games that you can go and vote on and help determine the winner of that. So if you guys want to go play free VR games that people have been working on for over a month, go ahead and check it out on the your left side, my right side over there, and vote for which ones are your favorite. And without any further ado, we have Declan Johnson here to talk about gamification in WebXR.
Hey, thank you. I'm excited to chat about this. I love XR in general. Specifically, WebXR is very exciting to me. But I wanted to kind of introduce myself first. So if you could go to the next slide, um,
Oh, I'm not
I'll
seeing
kind of
anything.
talk to you guys and show you guys my journey in the XR industry. So I've been working in XR for, oh, back one more. Oh,
Sorry about that.
no, you're good. So I've been in the XR industry for about 5.5 years now. It started when I was in college. I went to Brigham Young University. I was there. I graduated, let's see, in 2021, so right amid all of the COVID stuff. And then when I was at Brigham Young University, I actually helped run the mixed reality lab on campus that we had over there. So, yeah, the mixed reality lab was a lot of fun. We had some early access to a lot of XR devices. We were very, very fortunate to have access to all that. But I had a professor who did his doctorate study in augmented reality and heads-up displays for soldiers. So he was able to get a lab kind of funded early on when I was a student, and it gave me the opportunity to play around with a lot of different headsets. We had the original CV1, we had, the Microsoft HoloLens, Magic Leap One. We had access to a lot of different things that people didn't necessarily get to play around with a ton. And from there, I kind of started my own first agency that I worked at, Practically Reality Labs. That was a fun little thing that I did while kind of in college. I worked on a lot of different prototypes for different things, one of which is still currently on SideQuest. That's the Self-Aid Arcade. So my friend Garrett Cook and I, who he now has a couple of different apps that are successful on the MetaQuest store, like Sail, but Sail is one of his games, and then Hard Drive is the other one. But we started early on building prototypes together, and Self Aid Arcade was one of our first ones. The concept of it was an exercise app where you jump into arcade machines and you play the games from inside of the machines. So it was a lot of fun. And then from there, I went and worked at an agency called Continuum XR. I was the first employee on at that agency, and then we kind of built the team from just me and the owners to about 15 different people, with a couple of different teams. And so I built a lot of these experiences that you're going to see while I was there. They asked me while I was there to specialize in building for web AR. Um, I started building experiences in 2021 in web AR using Eighth Wall mostly, which is a platform. Um, and yeah, I fell in love with the technology, fell in love with kind of the accessibility of it all, and what web AR had to offer versus other types of AR. And then this last December, I left there and have been kind of doing my own thing. So I'm starting my own little agency. Uh, it's just called Declan, just named after myself, and I get to do a lot of fun projects that are kind of my own thing. Some of which are web AR still. Some of them are a little bit more just web games. I'm doing a lot of education in the space, trying to teach people how to build in web AR and web XR. And then as well, I have been running a podcast actually with my friend Garrett Cook, the one I kind of mentioned earlier, who does Sail VR. We talk about XR every week and jump on and talk about the newest news, some gaming, lots of different stuff. So it's pretty fun. And if you go over on the board over there, you'll see my portfolio page. There's links to everything that I do over on that portfolio. So um, yeah, have fun. Look over there. I am very active on LinkedIn. So if any of you guys have LinkedIn, please feel free to reach out to me and connect with me and send me a message. I love talking to people about XR technology. But I kind of wanted to first jump in. I'm making a YouTube video on this soon, but jump in and talk a little bit about the difference of web XR versus native XR and then social XR. I feel like those are kind of the three main platforms right now. Um, Obviously, with web XR, you launch an experience through your web browser. So I would say if you go on to the next page, actually, there are a lot of examples of web AR campaigns that I launched. So these are all videos of different things that I've worked on over the last 3 years. We have an augmented Van Gogh exhibit where you hold up your phone onto a painting and it shows you kind of an immersive version of Van Gogh's art. The next one on the left underneath is a recreation of Fruit Ninja, but branded towards Mountain Dew and Maverick gas stations. The one underneath that is a tilt your head game, kind of like Cooking Mama, where you're trying to make as many recipes in a specific time frame as you can. That was for Maverick gas stations and Dr. Pepper. In the middle above, I built a project for Black Rifle Coffee Company where we augmented 9 of their different bags that they had and made cool characters that did cool things on the bags. The one underneath that was a map of Jerusalem and Christ's visit through the New Testament, kind of the different hotspots and places that he visited in the New Testament. Underneath that, we did a car wash show where we augmented a booth at a car wash convention. So that was a lot of fun. And then the last two are the one on the right. If you want to maybe replay the last two of them, the one on the right side or on the left side is a project I worked on this year on my own as a contractor, where I helped build a project for Coca-Cola and Disney where we launched Marvel characters on Coke cans. So we were able to add in the Marvel characters to the Coke cans and have them kind of be a display. If you want to go back to the slide over one more, sorry, I'm not doing a good job of
Yeah, yeah. It
narrating this.
I think it froze.
Oh, it froze. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, basically, we
Um,
just we animated a bunch of Marvel heroes. They were attached to Coke cans. And then the last one was some of the social AR work that I did for a video game where we overlaid the characters' heads in the video game on top of people in a social media filter. So most of these were web AR experiences. Web AR typically is triggered by scanning a QR code. You scan QR code and then interact with either an image or the world or a location in some way in your web browser using augmented reality. Um, Pretty cool. It's very accessible. That's one of the biggest benefits to it is there's a lot of accessibility. People anywhere in the world can use it. You kind of just jump on with your mobile phone and it launches the experience. So you don't need more hardware than what majority of people already have. Um, and that's one of the reasons why I love it is because we can build these awesome campaigns and almost anybody in the world can use them. Whereas if you're doing something for social, like the Monkey Do, the character experience that I did where we're overlaying the head of the character on the head of the person in the camera, that was on Effect House, which is attached to TikTok. Um, that is really fun too. You know, we can get really good engagement, but it's stuck to a social media platform. So if people don't want to get the social media account, they are stuck. not being able to use the experience. You can only use a social AR experience inside of social media. So it has a really good distribution method. That's one of the benefits of it. People who have social media obviously can naturally kind of get to your effects and your augmented reality experiences. But like I said, it's stuck in that environment. So with Facebook, they just announced that they're closing down Spark AR in the next year. So in January of 2025, there's not going to be any augmented reality inside of Instagram anymore. And that's a huge blow because there are people who've built their whole careers building out these Spark AR filters, and now they don't have access to that platform anymore, which sucks. Um, so, I mean, that's definitely a downside to it. And the native augmented reality and virtual reality, or XR, you have to download an application to be able to use it. So, native would be a lot of like the headset experiences, kind of like something in here, where you download an app, jump in, and you're able to play games, or do experiences, and those have their benefits. You can use a lot more processing power in a native application, but again, there's a problem with like distribution, getting people into the experience. If you're wanting to do like a short marketing type experience or like a small educational type experience, um, you can't really do that because you don't really want to download an app for like 30 seconds of augmented or virtual reality. It's not good for a lot of different use cases. They're really the use cases of people are going to use an application more regularly, so you make an app for it. Um, I don't know. Does that make sense to anybody? Hopefully, you're kind of following along. Does anybody have questions so far?
I just wanted you to know that I reset the player, and if anyone rejoins the world, they'll be able to see it again. Um,
Cool.
so and everyone's megaphone. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to just unmute yourselves.
Yeah.
I'm gonna refresh then, I guess. Sorry.
Oh, no problem. I will not refresh because I've been getting stuck each time that I do. So we'll just keep going and I'll tell you which slide because there are only 4 slides, so I know which ones I'm kind of talking about. But we'll wait
Okay.
for some people to get back, I guess, if
Yeah.
they want to go out.
Okay, we got TikTok on the top right. Is that correct?
Don't mean to be rude, but I'm very new to Banter and also new to wireless VR, so I'm just trying out my Quest right now. What is Banter basically? Just fill me in. Not being mean or anything.
No, you're good.
Um,
Arkin, do you want to take that?
Okay.
Yeah.
go ahead.
So, Banter itself, this is just a specific event for VR developers. Banter is a social application like you might see on Horizon World or VR Chat, but one of its unique attributes is that you're able to use a lot of web components in Banter. So, right now we're just having an event where we can kind of talk about stuff like that, and Banter is kind of facilitating this discussions. Specifically, the VRCC, the VR Creator Club, is a club that's not specifically on Banter, but helps other people develop VR skills and for both like web, mostly focused on Unity, but you can go on and there's training material that you can do. And we're holding these events on Banter to kind of have a more cohesive, like immersive in-person communication about different ways that we can learn and understand VR. Does that answer your question?
Yep, completely and fully.
Excellent.
Cool. But yeah, then we can keep going. Hopefully everything is kind of clear. Like I said, I'm going to be making a YouTube video about this soon. It's a very interesting topic. Not a lot of people know that there is a difference between social AR and web AR, or native AR and social AR. So, um, it can get kind of confusing, especially if you're trying to develop for those different things. You have to think of a lot of things when you're developing a campaign for each of those different types
Oh
of
god.
delivery methods. If you're doing social, Obviously, you have to make sure that your audience is on the social platform. If you're doing web, you have to figure out and make sure you have a way to distribute the content efficiently to the people who are interested in it. So, like, one of the campaigns that I did, the Maverick Mixology game that had the Cooking Mama type thing, I think it was on the bottom left corner of slide 3. That one had in-app pushes to the people who had the Maverick app. So if you went in and got a push, you were able to go to the game, play the game, and if you scored a certain amount of points, then you would get a free soda at the gas station. Um, there are a lot of different things you have to consider, like your call to action. You have to consider how you're going to get people into the experience. What are your metrics for success of an experience? You want to make sure that if you're working with a client on a campaign like that, that you have a way to justify the results and make sure that they feel like they got their money's worth with the campaign. So there are a lot of different things to consider, but um, now I guess if you go to slide 4, some of the things that I'm working on now, I work with a lot of platforms on creating the new and future tools for creating web AR. One of those companies is Eighth Wall. Um, they have a new product called Niantic Studio, which I've currently built 2 projects in. The 2 that are Niantic Studio projects, if we're on that slide, are the one that have the girl in the mine. It's called Mineshaft Mayhem. It's an infinite runner game, and the other one is called Dragon Dash. It's kind of a Flappy Bird clone. Both of those are built using Niantic Studio. Niantic doesn't currently have well, it's getting to the point where you can do a lot more AR inside of it. It's built kind of like a game engine right now, though. So if you're familiar with something like Unity and writing code inside of Unity, you can figure out how to use Niantic Studio pretty well. It is a different programming language. Obviously, it uses JavaScript instead of C Sharp, and it's entity component based scripting instead of mono behavior scripting. So there is a little bit of a difference between the two. But if you're able to kind of jump into Unity, you can figure out Niantic Studio and create cool projects. Like I said, these ones right now are web games more than they are augmented reality experiences. That's kind of on purpose because we're doing a lot of technical testing to test out things like the new physics engine and a lot of the new capabilities that are inside of Niantic Studio that weren't in their past product that they had. And then the other 2 experiences up here are more augmented reality based. One of them is a Tetris game where you're using augmented reality kind of as just the location of the game, and then the other one is another Flappy Bird type game. Uh, that one is called Blastronaut, and I kind of built it with 3 different mechanisms. One is just a web game. One is a web AR game where you're placing the character in the world in front of you and kind of playing and interacting with it in augmented reality. And then the third is a face filter game where it's reactive to if you're opening or closing your mouth. That's how you control the mechanics of the character. So, yeah, I'm helping build a lot of the future tools of what we're going to be building augmented reality and web augmented reality experiences with. There are different things that you can use for it. You can use like different JavaScript libraries to build web AR, but a lot of them are pretty difficult to use and you don't get the best results. So I've spent most of my time working with companies that are making engines to do that type of stuff. Usually you have to pay a commercial license fee for it and a subscription fee, so it can be a little bit more expensive, but the results that you get are much, much better. And the cool thing about both of these engines is they're not only going to be augmented reality web engines that you can play with on your phone. That's kind of the main delivery method of web augmented reality right now. They're building out web virtual reality environments as well, where you'll be able to put on a headset, go into your browser, and launch a website in 3D. So imagine going into, my website, and instead of just seeing a 2D page, you're able to jump in and have a presence and then walk around and see my portfolio and play around with it instead of just looking at it like that page over there. That's kind of the future that we're going into. That's where the world is evolving to with all these different headsets and all this extra, uh, utility that we want inside of the applications that we're using. As things like, Project Orion from Meta, or the new Spark glasses from Lens Studio and Snapchat, or sorry, the Snap lenses from Lens Studio and Snapchat. As they continue to grow in popularity, we're going to need more interactive content on the web to be able to interact with to make those devices really useful. So my personal belief is that we're going to have kind of a really, really interactive and 3D based web here in the next couple years. That's kind of the future of all this stuff. I'm hoping that instead of this metaverse that Meta keeps talking about, and a lot of people keep talking about, that's app based, where you have to kind of download a different platform to use, we will have what we would
Sorry.
call the metaverse on the web. It's just a 3D layer of the web interface that already exists. So, in my personal opinion, that's kind of where we're going with a lot of this stuff. And a lot of the important things that we're going to be adding in to the 3D web is gamification. Using game like elements to add interactivity into the mundane and ordinary things that we do every single day. Gamification doesn't need to be making things into video games themselves. We don't have to make, your job into a video game, but we can add in elements that have been proven through the creation of video games to be successful into the things that you're doing. So imagine you're working at a factory and you have, a box that you have to take from one place to the other, or you have some type of thing that you're looking for on the line. Imagine wearing an augmented reality headset where you're looking at it and it's checking to make sure everything is right with the product that you're looking at on the line. It can kind of detect whether there are defects, and it can give you a heads up display of kind of the things that you're looking for to make your job a little bit easier. Something else that is being used a lot right now is called digital twins, where you create a 3D map of a physical location and then overlay digital content on top of that 3D map, and then lay that 3D map back on the real world. So kind of you're using wayfinding or waypoints like you would in a video game, and you can have a heads up display with like a map pointing you where you need to go. So if you're in like a warehouse, if you're trying to get to a specific area of the warehouse, we could have a full 3D scan of that warehouse on your augmented reality device. It can guide you through the warehouse how to get to where you need to go based off of the surroundings that your device is seeing. A lot of those things are becoming possible, and a lot of those things used to only be able to be done on apps, um, and with specific applications made for like headsets or mobile devices. But now we're getting to the point where a lot of that can be done over the web. And then we're going to need to add in things to make it readable and usable by people. And that's where a lot of the gamification elements come into play. Um, I'm sure a lot of you have probably played Call of Duty or different games like that where you have like a mini map. And just imagine having that in real life. To me, that sounds really exciting and really useful. So I want to ask, does anybody else have any questions about any of the stuff that I've talked about so far? Um, I'm kind of unsure what time it is or how much
The
longer we have.
time
Okay, so it's
is
2:30.
34 after. So
I
you
wanted
have
to try
3 minutes.
and like answer as many things. Yeah, go ahead.
What hardware platforms do you see people, gonna be migrating to or using currently, but that you've had the most success with?
With hardware, I would say
Yeah.
the devices that I use most of the time are actually people's mobile phones. It's just the easiest thing to use right now. So I build things for the web
Lost
that are
as well.
launched on
Yeah.
your mobile device. It's just
Okay.
usable. Most people in the world have a mobile device, and for that reason, I build to
Is
it.
that Android or Apple?
Both. Yep. And they're web experiences. So you go onto the URL
Okay.
and you can launch on your mobile phone. If you go to my portfolio after this is done, I have a bunch of web AR experiences that you can launch there. So you just click on a button, it'll take you to a new domain, and you can play around with it. But the goal for
Right.
WebXR is for it to be hardware agnostic, where it kind of runs on whatever device you have. Um, there are like the old Eighth Wall platform actually runs on VR devices and augmented reality headsets as well. So like I built a Fruit Ninja clone on it that ran on a mobile phone, but then we optimized it so it'd run on a Microsoft HoloLens 2 as well, um, which is pretty cool. Build once and deploy everywhere is kind of what we're trying to get to the point where we can do.
Niantic Studio looked pretty cool. I looked into it a little bit. I had a hard time finding any like tutorials or classes
Yes.
to kind of get into that and WebXR in general, actually. Any suggestions?
That's one of the things that I am personally trying to accomplish. So I started out in the industry in Unity and then was asked to specialize in developing for WebXR, and that was in 2021, and there were even less resources for it back then. Um, Niantic has built out some resources as of late for the Cloud Editor, which is their older software version, but for Studio, that released in June, so there's still very, very little about it. I've built two projects for Niantic Studio. Both of them are, I guess you would say, open source. The code is available for anybody to look at. So if you go to eighthwall.com/DCLN, that should be my personal portfolio page on Eighth Wall. And I have two things on there that you can clone and run yourself. You can see the code, you can see how it works, and then you can take it and adapt that into any type of project that you want to do. So, yeah, my goal is to start creating content for building projects in Studio soon. I've just found there's a lot of understanding of XR in general that people haven't really talked about, like what is AR and VR. There's not a ton of videos about that out there in reality on like YouTube. There's not a lot of educational content, so I'm trying to create some of that content first to kind of teach people about what it all is, and then after that's done, my goal is to get in and teach people how to build these experiences. And I've talked to Justin a little bit, and there's a potential where I might release a web AR class in the VRCC. So hopefully be on the lookout for that. That's one of my goals to do in the next probably 2 months. I want to try and have a good tutorial for building an experience in one of the platforms on the VRCC soon.
Awesome. I'll
But
keep my eye out. Thanks.
yeah, yeah, of course. And there are frameworks, I guess, if you want to learn about building XR on the web. I would recommend looking at the frameworks that allow you to do 3D rendering on the web first, because that's what all this is based off of. 3JS is one of the best. So if you learn 3JS, it's applicable in almost every single engine that you'll be using on the web for augmented or virtual reality. But I mean, what I've done is mostly augmented reality. There are virtual reality specific platforms as well. One of the best is called Wonderland
Hmm.
Studio. It's kind of like a Unity type thing, but for web-based virtual reality. And I've been extremely impressed by some of the experiences that I've seen using Wonderland Engine on the web for VR. They're like full-fledged games, like VR games, but you run them in your browser on your VR device, so it's pretty cool.
Very cool. But Niantic Studio is like the easiest to get up and going, right?
Yeah, Niantic Studio is pretty easy. I like Mattercraft by Zapper as well. It's another
Oh,
really good
yeah.
engine.
Yeah, Zapper's
There
great.
is a 14-day trial for that, and then after that you have to pay for it. The nice thing about Studio is it is free, but it is still a very early beta engine, so there's a lot of functionality that's just not quite there yet. But they're developing a lot of it right now, so
Cool.
yeah. Does anybody else have any questions?
Um, I was thinking about asking you what you think to look into the future. At the Meta Connect, they were talking about Orion and
Yeah.
having the glasses. What do you think will be like the role of WebXR and those glasses? And do you know if there's any way to kind of like jump onto development of that early, or like where to look on the internet to try to jump into that development as early as possible?
That is a good question. Right now for Orion, I don't think there's anything available like developer wise. It is still so close. I think they made, what was it, like 100 devices or something. So that's all that's really out there, and they're like 10 grand each. None of them are publicly available, so it's very little what they're letting people have access to. Um, so like developing for it, I don't know what they're gonna do, honestly. I think Meta's been really good about working with platforms like Unity and Godot as well. They're putting a lot of time and effort into Godot for Oculus support, and then Unreal Engine. There will probably be a way for you to build for the Orion using those platforms. But for me, web is very exciting because they're already working with um, people who help make accessible QR codes, which I didn't know that was a thing, but they're trying to make a way for the glasses to read QR codes pretty easily. And then you can launch a web experience from a QR code because it's just a domain. So, my hope is that there's a seamless integration of WebXR into something like Orion. I have a feeling like with the Ray-Ban Meta glasses right now, it's a closed ecosystem, so they don't really allow outside third parties to publish applications for that headset at all or do anything with that technology. It's all internal to Meta. I'm hoping that won't be the case with Orion, but the kind of the way that they're going about that headset has me worried that it will be. But even if we're not able to publish applications to it, if it has a web browser, then we will be able to push WebXR applications to it. So I think that WebXR will continue to become like the unanimously used platform and used technology for all XR devices in the future. If you think about it, like every computer, every device that we have runs the web. Um, so building 3D layer to it and giving it interactions and giving like a way, I mean, we could track to the world around us using augmented reality on the web already. We can use location based augmented reality experiences. So if you wanted to have like a cool thing inside of your restaurant that's all augmented reality based and you have patrons walk in, scan a QR code, and then it turns their dining experience into this cool augmented experience like that is something that I see being a possibility in the future. I see people having, yeah, the web running constantly. I think the biggest problem with that right now is the infrastructure for the web in some countries isn't super good, but with things like Starlink and edge computing and getting faster internet speeds to people wirelessly, I think that we'll be able to do a lot of that stuff with those devices that might not have as powerful of hardware in the future. We'll be able to connect to the internet and run crazy things off the web using those types of devices. So, yeah, go ahead.
Um, yeah. So, you, s- uh, from what you're talking about, I mean, I'm really curious about the visor that Immersed is doing. Have you had any connection with those people at all? And I noticed that the latest demo of their visor headset was actually looked pretty good.
Yeah.
So I just wouldn't mind your
So
thoughts on that.
I've seen a little bit about the visor. Honestly, it's probably been in the last like 2 weeks that I've really seen a lot of news about it. The first demos I saw of it in the last like week and a half weren't actually tech demos at all. It was just hardware demos where people weren't able to jump into it. Um, my
Yeah, they're still
there's kind of
questioning
a
that hardware.
yeah, there's a lot of trends going on right now that I'm really worried about, just in technology in general. I don't know if you follow the AI devices that have been released recently as well.
Hmm.
People are over promising a lot in tech and under delivering. and I worry that people are going to start doing that a lot more in the XR space again. For a while, XR was the big buzzword, augmented and virtual reality. Everybody wanted to be a part of the metaverse. For like 2 years from 2021 and 2022, that was like the big thing. And it was the biggest buzz that was going on. And then crypto took over, and people were over promising and under delivering there. And then now AI is the big buzzword, and there are all these AI devices like the Rabbit One or the Humane Pin or like the Friend necklace that you can wear, where people were trying to create these awesome devices to replace all this technology that we currently have. And then they came out with these things and gave them to consumers, and they didn't do anything. It was an Android operating system running inside of a custom piece of hardware. Um, I'm worried that there will be companies that will do something similar in augmented and virtual reality again. Now that there is kind of a pickup in the trend of the technology with things like the Apple Vision Pro and with Project Orion and with the new Spark stuff, I feel like people are going to kind of see that and get excited again. And then there's going to be people creating things that don't work the way that they promise that they will. So that's just something. I'm not saying that Visor is doing that. I'm just saying it's really hard for me to be excited about a piece of hardware that can't really even show off what they're promising at this stage, and they're like they only have a physical demo when they were promising that they would have more of the actual use case demo and stuff. So that kind of me is just a little bit of a red flag. So I don't know. That's just kind of where I am with that right now. I'm not
Okay,
trying to
thanks a
get too
lot.
excited. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Just
I feel like there have been some really exciting things. Like the meta was very exciting. The Connect that just happened. The 3S is a very, very powerful device at a really, really good price point for the majority of people. So they're trying to make VR more accessible to people around the world. Um, so I don't know. I think that is a very exciting thing that is going on, and I feel like other companies are starting to announce that they're working on technology for that again, which obviously is going to add back in competition. I know HTC is going to be working on more consumer devices instead of professional devices like they have over the last little bit, and um, that just gets me excited for the industry in general. I think there's going to be a lot more coming out in the next, 3 to 4 years, hopefully less, hopefully 1 to 2 years. But um, yeah, I just see people are not stopping the work, even though it's not as hot of a topic anymore. People are still working really hard on XR devices. So
Yeah, I think
yeah,
it's like early days of personal computers where once
for sure.
things get to a certain critical point, then there's lots of competition. But
Yeah,
right now we have the two monopolies really that are taking over until
for sure.
such time as, yeah. Oh, thank you. And I'm in it for the long term, so I'll stick around for a couple of years.
Good. Me too. I
yeah.
kind of have invested my whole career in it. So
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm all, part of me is really excited that there's not so much like vision on the XR industry right now
yeah.
because like there was so much promised and not a lot was delivered. Like they're like, oh,
Hmm.
where's the metaverse at? I'm like, that's not a thing. That was made up. It was pretend.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, like it meeting its potential while no one's watching, and then
Hmm.
investing my entire career into it, and then 10 years from now, being in a good position.
Yeah. That's the dream, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Apple doesn't even have a concept in metaverse, right? They're not
Yeah,
even
I don't
looking
think
going that
so.
way.
No,
Yeah,
I mean they've kind of rebranded everything, right? With spatial computing is
yeah,
essentially like mixed reality, which we've all been calling it for years, but they have their own
exactly.
terminology for it. So I haven't heard anything for what they're planning if they're planning a metaverse type thing. I'm just imagining again a 3D version of the web where you can have multiplayer experiences, and it'll just be rebranded in some way to an
Oh,
interactive.
they'll give it a new name. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah,
So
I don't
Coincidentally,
want.
I don't think they even support web AR like you were talking about before. Don't they block access?
well, so you
Uh,
can run web
They have
AR on a
VR, but
Yeah, you can run WebAR on like an Apple device, like a mobile phone. They don't have like a native WebAR. You have to use SLAM tracking, which is kind of the web version of positional tracking for AR. That's why Eighth Wall is so good, is because they have a really good SLAM engine. Um, but a lot of companies are now looking into app clips, which is something that Apple does support, and it uses Apple's native AR browser. So they're trying to figure out how to turn their WebAR applications and things that you're making in WebAR into an app clip that can be run on an iPhone. So that's kind of like the workaround that people are going right now. But for like the Apple Vision Pro with the Vision OS 2, they enabled Web VR automatically. You can't use the pass-through capabilities though. You can't use the
Yeah.
mixed reality capabilities of the Apple Vision Pro 2 Apple Vision Pro using web yet. And that makes sense to me. Honestly, there's still a lot of like security things that we have to figure out in the XR world when for it to become mainstream. Um, there's a lot of security issues with like having a constant feed to people's world around them that has to be solved. So imagine like going into a private business and them not really wanting you to be able to use your feeds all the time, your XR devices and stuff. Like, how are we going to determine when you're in a space like that, the type of security level that they want in their space versus if you're at somewhere that is supporting XR and supporting constant feeds? How do we support those? Or even in like private areas, imagine if you're using XR and you walk into a place like a bathroom. Like, how do we control that security issue? So there's a lot of that type of thing that needs to be discussed and figured out in the web world right now, and the XR world just in general. So there's going to be a lot of discussions over the next couple years about all of that stuff because we just haven't really had to think about it, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
There's
an
privacy
another
issues for
follow-up.
sure.
Newsletters. Like, are there any good blogs or newsletters about WebXR? I remember looking around and not coming up with much. There's just,
Yeah,
company blogs, I guess.
there's not a ton of like centralized information about WebXR. You can look up Wonderland Engine. They do a lot of really good stuff for VR. Zapper does some good stuff. Or I guess Zapworks is the parent company. They like show off their own experiences and stuff. There's somebody I follow on LinkedIn named Tom Emmerich. Tom is one of the biggest XR people in the industry. He worked for Eighth Wall originally, and I believe now he works at Meta or something like that. But he's just a very big public figure in the XR space, and he does a really good job of sharing news on his LinkedIn. So if I really need like
Tom.
XR updates, Tom is the person that I typically will go to for XR updates. And he just finished writing a book too, which is really cool. He's going on a
Ooh.
tour to go talk about his XR book that he just wrote. But he's been a huge pioneer of the industry and a huge, I guess, like influencer kind of around the product of XR.
Just a quick comment on multi-user web.
Cool. Well, yeah, if you guys are interested in learning more about the stuff that I'm doing, please connect with me on LinkedIn, and then you can go to my portfolio. LinkedIn's probably the best way to just chat with me right now. I have my YouTube channel, my TikTok, my Instagram, all that stuff. I'm trying to start posting XR related content, specifically web XR related content. I'm trying to get myself out there more, just because there's not a lot of people in the space that are doing it a ton. So, yeah, thanks for letting me come and talk about this stuff.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Declan, for coming out and talking about this. I think that Shoseki had one last question real quick. We're about 5 minutes out, and then we're going to close it all down.
Oh. I didn't say anything.
Oh,
I've
okay.
just been
Never mind.
quietly listening.
I
Okay,
heard
cool.
a question about multi-user
Oh yeah,
XR?
yeah,
Was that it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Just more of a comment.
Oh, multi-user. Yeah. So there are a lot of there are web XR experiences that can have multi-users inside of it. There are different type of netcode solutions. Peer.js is one of them. I personally have not had the opportunity to build a multiplayer web XR experience yet. That's one of the things on my to-do list soon. But yeah, there are multiplayer solutions for the web. The nice thing about the web is there are already so many frameworks that people use for things like that that are supported on the web, and we just kind of have to adapt those frameworks that already exist for web XR specifically. So, I have played multi-user web AR experiences before, and I've played with people on their phone, on a VR headset, on an augmented reality device, and on their mobile phone all at the exact same time. We were all playing the same game, and we were like in the same area with one another playing it. So it's really cool. There is stuff like that that is working already. Um, it's just going to keep getting better as we continue to push the what is possible with WebXR. So
Excellent. So now we're just gonna if you guys want to hang out and talk, that's great. Make sure you check out all of his links. He has his podcast that he's doing every week now. Been watching it. A lot of good information there. And thank you all for coming.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, lastly, I'm sorry about the player
Cheers.
not working. This is the first time I used this particular player, and maybe the video is kind of overwhelmed it. I'm not really sure what's happening, but
Maybe.
I'm gonna do some tests in the future and make sure this doesn't happen again. Kept crashing.
Yeah,
need-
and
I need
if
It was
sound.
you
great event. Thanks for putting it together, Matt.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Yep,
if
thank
you
you.
want to see the slides and we connect on LinkedIn, let me know. I can send them to you. Most of them are just like videos of things that I've been working on over the last couple years. So
Cool. I sent a follow request to you.
perfect.
I'll head out, but this was great. I'll catch you online. Have a good one.
Yeah, you
See
too.
around,
Thank you very
Casey.
much.
See you, Kurt.
All right.
My cats have been meowing at me because they want food this entire time. Oh, it's great.
Great talk.
Yeah, and should be on.